And we record our meetings, and Veronica has just started the recording. So welcome to the Center City Residents Association Zoning Committee. CCRA is a 75-year-old nonprofit civic association. As a nonprofit, we encourage everyone to become a member, which can easily be done through our website. There are several benefits to being a member, one of which is being notified of all proposed zoning changes within our area. CCRA is the recognized registered community organization for our area. Our boundaries are from South Street to JFK and Broad Street to the Schuylkill River. This committee works as follows. First, applicants present. We ask applicants to address the specific refusals or referrals. We have a very full agenda tonight, larger than I've ever seen as a zoning committee chair. So it's especially important that we stick to the points at hand tonight. We ask for no interruptions so that applicants can give their full presentation. We're limiting the presentation times to 10 minutes today, and Veronica's going to be monitoring that. After the presentation, the zoning committee has a chance to ask questions. And then after the zoning committee, then we open up to the community. So every case is going to get a total of 25 minutes with including that question and answer time period. So when addressed, we ask that you raise your hand on Zoom, state your name and address, and keep your questions succinct and to the variance being discussed. We also ask that you try not to repeat others' questions. If you agree with someone, you're welcome to raise your hand and simply state that you agree. If there's a spokesperson for the neighbors, we ask that that person speak for the entire group. After we hear from all of the applicants and listen to the community comments, our committee will then meet in a closed session. We always vote in one of three ways. We either oppose, not oppose, or not oppose with provisos. CCRA never votes in favor of any applications. Our decision is emailed to the councilperson, the ZBA, and the applicant. And we also post it on the CCRA website. It is really important to note that no matter how we decide, if you are concerned with a project, we strongly recommend that you attend the ZBA hearing. This is the best way to make your concerns known. The CCRA zoning committee cannot express the neighbor's point of view. Only a property owner or aggrieved individual may express their personal concerns to the ZBA directly. I'm going to quickly go through the agenda. And I also just wanted to point out quickly the difference between a refusal and a referral. A refusal, when in the case of a refusal, the burden is on the applicant to demonstrate why the community should accept the zoning change. Whereas a referral, the burden is on the community as to why to not accept the zoning change. And we actually have both tonight. So with that said, we have 1807 Walnut Street, which is a referral. We have 414 to 16 South 20th Street, which is a refusal. 1807 Pine Street, refusal. 2129 Pine Street, refusal. And 1953 Locust Street, refusal. Those are the 5 cases. I just went through them very quickly. We'll start with 1807 Walnut Street, which is zoned CMX 5. The hearing date for this case is November 1st, 2023 at 2 p.m. This is an application for a sit-down restaurant with accessory office and accessory storage in an existing structure with other existing uses in the same structure as previously approved. The reason for the referral is the proposed use, which is eating and drinking establishment in a sit-down restaurant, and it requires a special exception and ZBA approval. So with that said, I would like to call on the attorney presenting this case.
And just jumping in quickly, I'm Veronica, Aplenc's co-chair. I see that we're beginning 5 minutes early. And so that means that the time for this case will be adjusted from 7:10 to 7:35. Rebecca, is that correct?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
I just want to stick to the 10-minute presentation time.
Thank you. So what I'll do is I'll give you a 2-minute warning when you're at 8 minutes, and then let you know when you've reached the 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks, Veronica. That sounds great. And so I guess I will just quickly look up the attorney. This is Ronald Patterson.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you. Good
Hi.
evening.
Welcome.
This is Ron Patterson. I'm an attorney with Claire Harrison Law Firm. I'm a zoning attorney for the tenant, which is the proposed tenant, which is the Star Restaurant Organization. The application, as you mentioned, regards 1807-09 Walnut Street. It's the Allison building, but it was last occupied by the Barnes & Noble bookstore. As I indicated, the tenant would be the Star Restaurant Organization, who's proposing a sit-down restaurant in the building, restaurant being on floors 1 and 2, accessory office on floor 3. There's no changes proposed to the building height, the footprint or area, or FAR, as some people may know it as. The property is located in the CMX 5 zoning district, which would permit a restaurant as a matter of right, but we're also located on the Center City overlay, where on Walnut Street, Chestnut Street, East Market Street, and South Broad Street requires a special exception for a restaurant, which routes us to the zoning board and through the CCRA in particular. And I believe so that CCRA can see and determine that it is a restaurant, what type of restaurant it is. It's not a nightclub, and we can discuss the typical proviso conditions that are meant to lessen any adverse impacts that the use may have. So that's the zoning procedural setting. I'm going to introduce Michael Palermo, who's the Vice President of Development Facilities, and I believe Stephen Starr may be here to give a brief introduction. And if you allow Gregory Charnock to share her screen, we can go through the site plans, floor plans as well. So Stephen, if you want to.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah, it says Michael Palermo under my name. I just wanted to say hello and greet everyone, and to just say that this is an exciting project for us to do. We're very enthusiastic. The place has been vacant for a while, and our plans, I think, are going to be wonderful for the neighborhood and for the city. I look forward to it. And of course, you know who I am and places that we've done. And I believe that our commitment to excellence in terms of the food and keeping our neighbors happy has been proven over the years. This particular restaurant, I would love not to tell too much, because I know this is recorded and will go to the press, and we're trying to keep it out of the press, at least what we're doing. But I will tell you a little bit, because you're going to want to know. So this restaurant is going to be, if I had to describe it, so everyone would understand it, it'll be sort of an Italian version of Park. It's smaller than Park. So it's like a trattoria, but it'll be an all-day thing, breakfast, lunch, dinner, reasonable prices based upon what things cost. Nothing seems that reasonable nowadays. And it's just, I think it's going to be vibrant and exciting, and just a great complement to an already fantastic neighborhood in Philadelphia. And I'm excited to show you the plans once they're done. And I think it'll be a place that, just as Park is, a place that will become iconic over the years. And I'm going to leave it up to our attorney and Michael to go over all the details. But
Great,
thank you.
Gregory, can you share your screen, and then Michael can start? Great.
So the restaurant is on 2 floors, the ground floor and then the second floor. This is the ground floor plan that you're looking at. This plan has approximately 174 seats. I think the host is muting me.
Well, I think you have two.
Yeah.
So you just have to
Yes.
mute one of yourselves, I think.
Yeah, get to take the cell phone.
Because there's a little bit of an echo.
You've seen, this is the floor plan. It has an arc of a bar. Walnut Street is to the right here on this plan. There's kind of 2 dining rooms on the first floor. One is the dining room more to the right, which is more of a cafe, which is in the window. And then we have a more kind of formal dining room in the back with 80 seats, but including the bar and everything else. This is 174 seats. And the rest of the space on the first floor is kind of the back of the house, coffee station, walk-in refrigerators, offices, prep space. There is an internal trash room in this restaurant. We will hold the trash in this restaurant until the end of business. Then we will take the trash down a lift that goes to the basement, and then the trash gets transferred into the 10 Rittenhouse loading dock, where it will remain indoors until it's picked up between 8 and 9 a.m. each day. Just to note that we will also be receiving deliveries from the 10 Rittenhouse loading dock, which is accessed on Sansom Street, by the way. And those deliveries will find their way through the basement, kind of the reverse transaction of the refuse transaction. At no point do we plan to accept deliveries on Walnut Street. Greg, if you can go to the third plan, I want to highlight the outdoor cafe to the guests, if you can. So this is Walnut Street in the front of the restaurant. We plan to apply for this modest 42-foot by 10-foot outdoor configuration. The sidewalk on this block is 23 feet deep from the curb to the building, and we are applying for 10 feet of that space. You can see those dimensions on the side. This drawing is as a placeholder. We plan to put a decorative flower bed. We plan to put tables and chairs out there, and there will be an awning that's existing now in the building that will probably cover this cafe for sun and rain. The cafe will probably be usable as weather permits, which generally in Philadelphia is sometime in April till sometime in October. It is not a permanent cafe, it's temporary and can be removed in a matter of hours, just getting the tables and chairs and planters out of there. But again, it's a 23-foot wide sidewalk. We want to take up 10 feet, which will leave 9 foot 4 inches for guests to move back and forth and transverse the sidewalk. And there's another approximately 5 or 6 feet for the planter beds, where guests really don't walk, and other things on the sidewalk like bike racks and signs and fire hydrants.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just want to let you know you're 8 minutes into your 10-minute presentation. So this is the 2-minute friendly
2-minute warning.
note.
Michael, while we're on this page, the windows, are they operable? Were they open?
The windows are not operable at all. And we don't plan to play music outside for the sidewalk cafe, which is not permitted in Philadelphia.
And to state the obvious, because you don't see it, there is no dance floor, no live bands, no DJ, that type of thing.
Simple recorded background music, no dance floor, no DJ. Okay. If we could go to the second floor plan, I just want to describe the second floor real fast, Veronica, if you give me a minute. This is the second floor. On the second floor, we plan to insert a 80-seat private dining room with a small bar. It's quite nice up here. This private dining room overlooks the tops of the trees, overlooking the square. And on this floor is where our main cooking kitchen is. And all the things that support the cooking kitchen, the prep kitchen, the chopping, the butchering. Our exhaust is going out of this building to the east side, and we are on the third floor of the building is where we're going to put our exhaust fan, and there's a anti-pollution unit that we're putting into the restaurant. So we're landing the actual duct on the roof of the anthropology building, but there will be no noise, no smoke, no odor. We have an expensive anti-pollution unit. The fan will be interior, so you don't have the pollution of the noise of the fan. And the anti-pollution unit eats all the smoke and has an odorizer component to it. So it kind of like, we have anti-pollution units in a number of restaurants, and sometimes the air is just a little bit stale. It doesn't clean it up perfectly, so the odorizer kind of masks that stale odor. But if I lived upstairs in 10 Rittenhouse, 100 feet from this exhaust, I'm not going to smell or hear anything, or
And Michael-
see anything for that matter.
And how, in terms of seating, how does this compare to, say, Park or Barclay Prime?
Well, Barclay Prime is a smallish restaurant. It has about 120 seats, 130 seats. Park is a big restaurant, and Park has 352 seats. This restaurant, without the private dining room, is at 174, and with the private dining room, it's at like 298.
This is such an exciting project, and I have the unpleasant duty of letting you know that you've used up your 10
Right,
minutes.
thank you.
Thank you,
I think that you
Veronica.
guys, actually, thank you, Ron. You hit on a lot of the
you-
typical Center City proviso comments. So I guess I will open it up to the committee and just remind everybody that this is a referral, not a refusal. So it is our duty to find out, to decide
could
why
you-
not to accept it.
Gregory, could you put the rendering up the front while we're talking? There we go.
Really nice.
And go to the next page, Greg. Nope, next page. This kind of describes the anthropology roof.
Now you're
It
done.
describes our
You're
exhaust
done.
and all that. All right,
You're
all
good.
right, all right. Sorry.
Back to the other page.
No, it seems that very much good care has been taken to put this presentation together.
Right,
So
thank you.
I can start by calling on anybody who has a question from the committee first, please. If you could just raise your hand.
And just,
I have two questions. Very good presentation. Thank you. Have you had communications with 10 Rittenhouse?
We have had communications with 10 Rittenhouse. We are in communication with them every week for the last 3 months.
And what is their position on this?
Is anyone from 10 Rittenhouse?
We'll hear from them, but I want to hear from you.
I spoke to the general manager of 10 Rittenhouse this morning, as well as a couple times last week, Anna DiFilippo, and Anna has no objections to this plan. I just spoke with her this morning. We have a couple administration things to work out, like internal agreements about the refuse and the deliveries, but
Okay.
otherwise 10 Rittenhouse
good.
has no objections.
Okay, so you're in touch with them. That's the most, my second question, and so it's my last question. Joe's coffee shop, which is to the west of this, how far out on Walnut Street does that extend? I don't know if you have a picture of that, but relative to this extension for the sidewalk cafe.
Joe's Coffee Shop is in the 1845 Walnut Building. It's actually no longer Joe's Coffee Shop. It's a produce store that is under renovation. I'm pretty certain that produce store, the line of that building, 1845 Walnut, is on the same line as this building, 1807 Walnut.
Thank you.
They're on the same line.
Shows how rarely I'm allowed out in this out. I didn't know Joe's went. Thank you. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ben, from the committee.
Thank you. Yeah, again, great presentation. I'm assuming, just to follow up with Bob's question, Dom Real Estate from the Allison Building rentals above, you've had communication and they're in favor?
Yes, we have. I've been in touch with Nicole Dries and Jason Schwarber, I think his name, and they are the managers of the building. We've communicated everything I'm showing you tonight to them.
Great.
And there's been no objection, sorry.
Great, great to hear. Ben Zuckerman, did you have a question?
You said very quickly what kind of food it will be. Did I hear Italian food?
Yeah, it's going to be like a trattoria, Ben, kind of like the Italian version of Park, where Park is a more of a brasserie. This will be more like a trattoria.
Okay, thank you.
Great. I don't see any more questions or comments from the committee. Is there anybody from the community that has any questions?
I do.
I think I don't see any more raised hands. Okay, well, that's
So
excellent.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Hold
I
on.
do
I
see
think I
one
saw
raised
one.
hand. I do see one raised hand, and I think it's Gil Feinberg. So what we
Right.
encourage everyone to do is you can use the raised hand feature at the bottom of the screen so we don't miss you. And when we call on you, if you could be so kind as to just state your name and address, which is what we're asked to ask you for. Thank you.
Yes, Gil Feinberg, 10 Rittenhouse. Could you tell me how many deliveries a day you would expect when you're in operation?
Good point.
Mr. Feinberg, when we're in operation, the restaurant gets deliveries every day from food vendors, produce, fish, meat, dry goods. It's probably, 6 or 7 deliveries a day that would take place on the Sansom Street side, and maybe 3 or 4 beverage deliveries a week. We operate the same restaurant. We operate the Love Restaurant and use the same loading dock. And I talk to Joe all the time down there at the loading dock, and we've been able to do a good job with managing our refuse and our deliveries and not occupy those 3 bays, which are busy all the time. With
So, and
deliveries for 10
no
Rittenhouse.
deliveries on the street.
No deliveries on the street. It's usually how 10 Rittenhouse runs their dock is loading bay number 1 is for the restaurants. Loading bays number 2 and 3 are for the residents who have furniture delivered and refrigerators delivered from time to time.
Thank you.
Great.
Did Ron Naples have his hand up before?
I don't see any hand. Ron, do you have a comment?
None.
Okay.
I just unmuted just to tell you that my question was answered. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. All right, well, that was great. Thank you for being very thorough with the presentation. Very excellent. I think we don't have any more questions on this one, and we can move on to our next case.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you
Good luck.
for being so prepared. All right, that brings us to 414-16 South 20th Street. That is a dwelling, sorry, for the erection of an attached 4-story structure for use as a multifamily residential planned unit development with 3 units, units A, B, and C, each with a roof deck to be accessed by a pilot house, mechanical elevator, and 2 accessory parking spaces for a total of 6 parking spaces with balconies at units A and B. This is a refusal. It's zoned RM1 and CMX1. And the reason for the refusal is all buildings in CMX1 shall comply with parking requirements of the most restrictive adjacent district, provided that when the proposed building is attached to another building in an adjacent district, the regulations of that district shall apply. In the RSA 5, RSA 6, and CMX 2 districts, accessory parking for any single family or multifamily use in an attached or semi-detached building shall be prohibited unless it can be accessed from a shared driveway, alley, or rear street on which no on-street parking is permitted on the side of the rear street directly abutting the lot. Parking ingress from South 20th Street would be prohibited in this case. In the CMX1 district, household living use regulations are If the lot is adjacent to the residential district, the household living regulations of the most restrictive adjacent resident district apply, except if the household living uses is in an attached or semi-detached building, the household living use regulation of the residential district to which it is attached apply. As RSA 5 is the most restrictive adjacent residential district, multifamily household living is prohibited. So except with the respect to front yard depths, all buildings in any CMX1 district shall be governed by the dimensional standards of the most restrictive adjacent district, provided that when the building is attached to another building, that it is in another district. The dimensional standards, other than the front setbacks requirements of the other district, shall apply. So as this building is attached to RSA 5, the minimum required open area is 20%. For a corner lot, and the proposed for this application is only 11.5. The maximum building height is 38 feet, and the proposed height on this application is 42 feet. The minimum rear yard depth is 9 feet, and there is no rear yard at all proposed. So I'm going to call on the attorney, Stephanie Boggs, although I think I actually got an email that Michael was going to be presenting tonight. So I will call on them to present this case, please. Hi, Michael.
Hi, thank you, Rebecca, and good evening, everyone. Michael Phillips with Claire Harrison on behalf of RLDL 20th Street and High Top Real Estate and Development. I know we have a 10-minute limit, so I will try to be as concise as possible in summarizing the 4-year history that led us to where we are today. I have with me Ryan Lobauer, who is a resident architect with High Top Real Estate Development, as well as David Landsgroner's principal of High Top and Real Estate Development is available as well. So although I'm going to share my screen right now. All right. So here is the proposed townhomes. Now, although the refusal is written as if this is multifamily, these are going to be marketed each as single family homes. There were 3 of them. However, since we did not do a lot line relocation at this point, it'll be in a planned unit development. All of the homes are proposed to face Waverly with garage access for the 2 homes to the west will be via curb cut on Waverly, and then the home that is on the corner will have the garage access right off 20th Street. Now, just to quickly go through the history and how we ended up here, like I mentioned, this case really has its roots back in 2019, when on behalf of the developer, a zoning permit was pulled for a mixed-use development with a ground floor commercial grocer, fresh food grocer, as well as 4 multifamily units above. This used the fresh food grocer bonus, which was in effect at the time, is no longer in the code, but at the time provided 15 feet of height. And on behalf of the developer, that we also paid $60,000 to the city's Affordable Housing Trust for an additional 7 feet of height. So altogether, this is the by right plan for which permits are in hand, and it was 60 stories with that fresh food grocer on the front floor and the 4 units above. There were near neighbors who coordinated, banded together in opposition to this development, and they had appealed the by right permit, and this is the building permit for it. So later that year, after a couple of hearings before the zoning board, we reached a compromise, and we were before CCRA back in right before the pandemic, about December of 2019 was when we filed a first variance plan. And this plan reduced the height from 60 feet down to 45 feet 9 inches and eliminated that fresh food grocer at the first floor. Now, in order to make the project viable and to abandon the by right proposal, the footprint of the building expanded outward. There was significant community support for this plan. However, there was opposition from one near neighbor whose property abutted this development, and she was the sole exception to everyone kind of wanting this plan instead of this. She preferred the by right proposal and development. So we were unable and did not proceed with this variance option number 1, we'll call it, with the 4 parking spaces underground in the 45-foot 9-inch multifamily development that was at the time supported by CCRA. And as a result, we went back to the litigation and this by right development. And that's where we've been. And quite frankly, I didn't think we would end up back here today with another proposal and another compromise. But we put our heads together and spoke to many of the near neighbors about a new path, which would not be multifamily, but would be single family townhomes. Now, these are 3, luxury high-end single family homes that will range in size between 3,100 and 3,600 square feet, each with 2-car parking. The height has been further reduced from the first variance plan from 45 feet 9 inches down to 42 feet, which is consistent with other single family homes in the surrounding neighborhood. Pull up the zoning plan here to just fill in a bit more of the details. You'll see our height of 42.9, and then there will be pilot houses with roof decks, and the pilot house and roof deck will all comply with the provisions in the zoning code. Each has 2-car parking, and you'll see here these units are accessed directly from Waverly, which is a rear street, and there is no refusal for these parking spaces, but the 2 that are accessed from 20th Street generated the refusal as well. However, there is context, and I believe the home at the northwest corner, this is the southwest corner of 20th and Waverly, also has the front loaded parking. So in terms of the other refusals, the initial, the first variance plan that we presented back in 2020 only showed 3% open area. That's been increased now to this 11.5% open area. There is open area as well that directly abuts the property at 420. Where 2 balconies, there's open area here and open area here. However, since we go right up to the property line at here where the property kind of jogs in a bit, that's where we end up with the refusal for no, technically not having a rear yard. The first variance plan had 5 feet. But I'm
sorry to interrupt, but I just want to let you know you're 8 minutes into your 10-minute slot, and so this is a friendly 2-minute note.
2-minute warning, and I will quickly summarize. So it's a split zoned CMX1 RM1 lot, but we are, as Rebecca noted, we're attached to RSA 5, so those are the regulations that control here. But we are looking at this as consistent single family homes that would fit in with the context of the neighborhood and the community. We have significant support from all of the near neighbors. They have sent in letters to CCRA, and you'll see the addresses here: 2009 Waverly, 2015, 2011, 2004 Pine. So these are all the near neighbors who have viewed this plan in context compared to the approved by right plan and strongly favor the variances that would be necessary for the developer to abandon the by right plan and to proceed with the more contextual and better suited townhome plan. And I will note, just for the record, in case to dispel any confusion, in the event that the variances are granted, the by right permits, both the building and zoning permits, will be abandoned, and this will be the plan that the developer proceeds with, and that is, we're under agreement, contractual agreement, that is the path we'll take. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I know many of you have lived this as long as I have, and this hopefully you'll agree is a preferable plan that works with the context of the community, and that we would love to have developed and built in the coming weeks, months, and then hopefully to have 3 new single family homes there with new residents on the tax rolls for many years to come.
Thank you very much. I just want to start with, I see we have one community member with a raised hand, but I want to see if anybody from the committee has any questions. To start. Okay, no questions from the committee. That is, one committee. All right, go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I appreciate the long history of this property. The first question is, are all the prior construction issues resolved with the, 420 South 20th? I know there were prior issues. And second part of the question, other than the height, I don't see an entrance for the, I'll call it the middle townhouse. So I'm assuming they're accessing, I can't really see the plan well, through one of the doors on either end. If it's going to be a communal, couldn't we solve all these variances with one access point on Waverly and having a back kind of entry and sharing the parking on the ground floor? I don't know if that's a clear question or not.
It is a clear question. It's the question that I anticipated would come first. So thank you, Ben. We looked exhaustively into how, if this could be developed as a townhome plan with only one access point for the garages. And unfortunately, this home at what would become 2000 Waverly, there was no way to wrap the parking around it. I think it's best seen maybe on the development plans. So there was no way to get the parking around all the way here from Waverly. So that's what necessitated this other curb cut. When we had the multifamily plans with no separate homes, we just had the one curb cut off of Waverly, but this plan necessitated that second curb cut to provide for the 2 cars at 2000 Waverly.
Mike, this is Ryan Lobauer. If you don't mind, just to clarify, the particular structure you're talking about wasn't 2000, but actually 2004. All of these townhomes will have their main entries fronting onto Waverly. It's the 2 to the east, so it's 2000 and 2002, that have a shared drive aisle that comes in off of 20th Street. It's only the furthest west unit that has the curb cut onto Waverly. We did look at trying to consolidate this all with one drive aisle, but as you can see, there's a notch in the site at the back that makes that impossible. We really did try hard to solve it that way.
And just remind us, is it the 20th Street or the Waverly Street that requires the variance?
20th Street.
And underground is not an option, as in, I guess Sorry, I don't know how you referred to them, but call it the original by right plan, an underground parking with this capacity, correct?
Correct, that had all the parking was below grade. And here the parking is going to be at ground level, and all of these homes would have basements.
That for a townhome configuration, that's not doable just because of the way that the ramp carves out the circulation space on the ground floors. It's very difficult. It's impossible to have individual circulation cores. So all of these houses will have residential elevators and stair cores, and that's just impossible to resolve with a ramp. That you need quite a bit of clearance to pull that off.
I guess I don't see from this plan the reason why we can't just have 3 curb cuts on Waverly. One for each home, the way they have 3 entries.
So that was actually one point of discussion when we were talking with the near neighbors, and the preference was to have as few curb cuts as we could, and having only one on Waverly would then maintain, the sidewalk, and would not, because otherwise we would have really, these 3 curb cuts. They would be limited, sidewalk and break in between them. So again, setting aside these circulation issues, this is how we kept as few curb cuts. It's 2 instead of the 3, but also we were able to shift 1 on 20th and keep 1 on Waverly.
Okay. Does anybody else from the committee? I don't think anybody else has any questions from the committee. Just take a quick scan. All right, I see one community member, Madeline. If you wouldn't mind stating your full name and address.
Yeah, so Madeline Hyde, I'm the owner of 421 South 20th Street, so right opposite this property. And I just want to say, I don't feel that anyone's tried to get an opinion of the people on 20th Street. So I just want to understand why this needs to be taller. Yes, the property on 20th and Waverly, the corner, is quite high. I have to say it's a bloody eyesore. And, I don't understand why this has to be higher than the general variance. These are going to be very high-end, expensive properties that are actually going to just raise the taxes of the people who are living in the area already. So why can't this be a standard height property?
So contextually, for the buyer we're looking for, and for these sort of townhomes, we need that additional height in order to market these properties that way. It is contextual. The home, I believe at it would be 412, or I think it's actually 2001 Waverly Street, is 42 feet. And really we're looking at something here where we have, the owner has approvals and not only zoning permits, but building permits in place for a 60-foot tall building in its place. So we're looking at this as a difference between 60 feet versus 42 feet. And, when we came before CCRA in February of 2020, we were at 45 feet 9 inches. It was very important in our negotiations with the owners on across the street on Waverly, as well as some of the other near neighbors, that we stick to this 42-foot height, mirroring what is directly across the street at 2001 Waverly, and we agreed to do that. Again, it's 4 feet of a difference, and I know that might not seem like much from a layman's standpoint, but in construction and for the buyers that we're looking for, it's absolutely imperative.
I just want to add, before we move forward, that there's an individual who raised their hand through the chat, and that's Richard DeMarco. So I just signal that for our chair, Rebecca Frisch.
Can I go ahead?
Okay, great. I do see one other person with a raised hand, Michelle Camillo. But
Okay.
Richard, if you want to go first, then we can go to Michelle.
If that's all right with Michelle, I know
Go ahead,
Michelle well. I'll go first if that's okay. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
No problem. We can hear you fine if you would just please state your address.
Sure. My address, my business address is, I'm here for, let me say this. First of all, my business address is 2005 Market Street, 16th floor. I'm with Zarwin Baum. I'm here representing Nancy Gilboy and Phil Harvey, who live at 2022 Waverly Street. And I have represented other neighbors that are nearby who have all signed the petition in support of this project. So if I can go ahead and just, first of all, I want to thank the developer and thank Michael for reaching this compromise. I think he did a pretty adequate summary of the ongoing really battle among the near neighbors and the developer with regard to this project. I think it's fair to say we were involved in 4 to 5 years of hotly contested litigations, including the zoning appeal that Mike mentioned. There was other indirect litigation that spawned from that. And I wanted to mention to the members of the committee that the developer did step back from the brink of where we were all headed, which was additional years of litigation. And we entered into complicated and equally contested negotiations to resolve this. So Mike is right. The original project was a 60-foot project with a fresh food market on the first floor and units, multifamily above. The plan that is before you tonight was negotiated among the near neighbors. Involved in that was I believe Stefan Koffer, who's on the petition that we submitted, signed in favor. The Levans, who I also represented, have signed in favor of this proposal, and Peggy Chambers as well. As Mike showed you on his screen, the petition that is signed, you'll notice the overwhelming number of people that are in immediate proximity. I understand that there's a neighbor that is also close by. I'm not sure how we missed her, but I'm sorry about that. But all the Addison properties and the Levans were involved and signed off. So
just a friendly reminder, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'd like to let you know that given the press of time we have tonight, this discussion will close in 2 minutes, and we're asking each committee or community member to limit their comments to 2 minutes. I want to mention that I see Michelle Chimilo's hand raised, apologies, and also CCRA ZC's counsel Wade Albert's hand raised.
All right, I'll just sum up just to say, I want to make sure you know that Nancy Gilboy and Phil would be participating tonight, but they came down with a very serious case of COVID. And that is why they are not speaking. They are listening. I'm speaking for them. They're very disappointed that they couldn't speak. They've worked very hard on the petition and to work out the compromise with Mike and his clients. And they're very sorry that they couldn't participate. If they were not ill, they would be speaking and I would be speaking less. So I understand you.
Rich, you're speaking. They would not be allowed to speak. You're speaking for all your clients.
Yes, this is perfect, actually, that we have one voice for everybody in support of this. It does sound like it's very well documented with the petition. So thank you very much.
And I would love to keep talking, but I understand you have more. So I'm available if you have any other questions.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to go ahead and ask Wade to chime in with his comment.
Yeah, so this is just a question. I remember that the last time that this came before us, a near neighbor, Angela Luton, was vehemently opposed. And can you tell me, do we know what her position is on this?
Angela Luton has sold her property. That's actually what made this possible, because she sold her property to Alec Barron, and you will see Mr. Barron's name here.
Got it.
6th name down.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, great question. All right, Michelle, if you would like to state your address and keep a quick question.
Hi, Michelle, I'm Robert Simillo, 420 South 20th Street. So we are the adjacent structure to the new proposed development. We are very happy that we have come to an agreement that all parties are on board with. I just wanted to state something, since we were the people directly affected to the adjacent structure, that we are in approval of the new plan. We have a few little bugs that we are working out in separately between our attorneys, but I just wanted to state that for the record.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Michelle.
Perfect ending, I think, for this case, and I don't see any more questions or raised hand. So with that, we'll just continue on with our agenda. Thank you all very much for such a thorough presentation.
Thank you.
Next up, we have 1807 Pine Street. And
good evening, everybody. Sean Whalen here for
Sean.
1807 Pine.
Sean, if you just want to go right into the your presentation, I don't need to give the intro if you want to go ahead.
And I will be brief, so anyone ask questions as we go, because I know you obviously have the time constraints tonight. All right, so just very quickly to kind of can you see the screen? I just can't tell what I'm sharing.
Yep.
Okay. So we're 1807 Pine. This is an existing built structure right off of South 18th Street on Pine, fourth house in. You can see where it's located. It goes from Pine all the way through to Panama Street. And just very quickly to give you an idea of where we are. So this is 1807 Pine. You can see the built structure. Panama Street, it is a legally open street. It is essentially a rear alley, a drive aisle for the houses, or all of these buildings. They're not actually houses, they're all multifamily, and parking. And I'll show you some of those photos in a second. So you can see we have, a fully built out structure. Again, please don't, Eric Ashley, the designer's on the call. He can answer questions too. I'm sure he's dying by seeing my poor attempt at highlighting the building for you. And again, this is just showing you the whole built out structure. So with that, we are RM1, as is everything around us. Like I said, we are actually trying to be contextual with the neighborhood. All of Pine Street, and I'll walk through some of the addresses in a second, are essentially 7, 8, or even 9 units. So at first glance, the refusal seems like a lot, and I certainly acknowledge that. What we are trying to do is we're going to demo. So we are 100% lot coverage right now, and we are going to just demo the upper stories of this rear portion. And there will be no change to the street frontage on Pine Street and no additional development on that street. So what we're seeking to do is demolish the upper stories of this rear portion and build it out to put in an elevator in the middle, add some ADA accessibility, and with additional units in the rear. The existing structure is not structurally capable of doing so. So again, here we have maximum height refusal is 38 feet is allowed, 50.35 feet. That's the existing height. That's the existing height of the frontage on Pine. I'll show you the street photo in just a second. There's no height going up and above that. So there's no additional stories being added on top. That 50 feet is what's existing at the site now. The minimum rear yard depth required is 9 feet. We are providing none. That's the current configuration of the property. So there is currently 100% lot coverage on our lot going all the way out to Panama. We are not changing that situation. Similarly, with a minimum rear yard area, we're required to provide 144 square feet of a rear yard. We are not proposing any. There is none currently. And again, I'll show you photos in just a second. That is the condition along Panama Street for most of the buildings. So again, here's the existing building at Pine, no change to it, no change in height or anything whatsoever, going back all the way to Panama. And this is where we're going to demo the just the upper portion that was there and rebuild it up. So to kind of give you some context, again, here's the beautiful frontage of Pine. No new construction, no change to this whatsoever. I mean, it'd be cleaned up and, you know, bricks reappointed if necessary, things like that, but no additional height, no change in visibility from Pine Street. This is the existing rear condition. This is our property. There's my photo skills aren't great, so I cut off there's a door here that also goes into the garage. The garage will stay. It will actually be a double wide garage door at that point in time to provide an interior trash area or trash storage for all of the units, so that all of the trash will be handled inside, and then a management company will come every week and take the trash out and bring it back in. So again, here's just an existing, you can see this is our property line, 100% lot coverage. There is no open space or open air at this time. And you can see even the property right next to us. This is the present condition of most of the block. Rear access parking in a garage with a full build out. Same thing, this is right next door to us. And then this is standing at our building, looking down the block. Again, you can see mostly double wide garages, 100% lot coverage, all the way built out to Panama Street. And this is looking the other direction, same thing. There are 2 open air parking spaces here, but mostly the same scenario. And so, again, that in a nutshell is what we're trying to do. I know I blazed through that very quickly, but just to give you some context, going through, these are all Pine Street addresses. 1801 Pine is 9 units, 1809, 1808, and 1810 are all 7 and 8 units. 1814, 15, 17, 19, 20, and 26 are also 7 units. So what we're asking for now is there are currently 4 units there. We're looking to put in a total of 8 units, which would be contextual with the block in both directions. And oh, I was going too fast. There will be 2-bedroom units ranging from 730 square feet up to 1,130 square feet. So again, I know I went very fast, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but I wanted to make sure that I assumed there would be a bunch of questions, and I wanted to make sure we had enough time to answer any and all of them, more so than my extended presentation for you.
No, that's great. I guess I have a quick question to start with, Rebecca Frisch, co-chair. It's saying that permitted is 5 units and you're proposing 8 units. So then are you saying that the existing neighbors are just not in compliance with the existing zoning, or how does that?
Correct. Essentially the entire block, this 1800 block of Pine is all what would be called non-conforming, prior non-conforming. They are all too large. So we actually have 2,140 square feet, which is where you get to, if you run through the math in the zoning code, that's what gets you to 5 units. Bonuses can get you up and over that. We are not seeking to use any bonuses here. And yes, basically all of Pine Street as dense multifamily is all non-conforming. It is also non-conforming as to lot coverage, no rear yard, sort of the slew of everything that I already walked through is all non-conforming for all of these buildings.
Got it. Okay. Is there anybody from the committee that has a question? Oh, Ben Weintraub.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Just to be clear, the addition in the back you're proposing is 4 stories and the same height as the front? Because looking at your aerials and your highlights, I don't see any that are flush with the front portions, meaning the rear L in the zoning terms is the same height as the facades going all the way back with 100% lot coverage.
So I'll answer that in parts as it was multi-part. Yes, we are intending to go 100% back. Again, basically, we would be flush with like the building right across the street from us. I went the wrong way, sorry. And so again, we would be flush going up right here with this building. You can see the building next door is actually built out 100% all the way out to Panama at the same height.
Right, but 3 stories, not 4.
I'm sorry, I heard somebody speak, but I didn't hear what they said.
I see it, the one across the street from you and all the others that I see in the aerial is they go all the way out 100% lot coverage to 3 stories, not 4 stories to the same height as the facades on pine and spruce.
Yeah, certainly, and I'm sorry if I misspoke. Yes, certainly many of them are only 3 stories, but there are, like, just if you're looking at this photo right here, just on the block, 1, 2, 3, 4 stories right there, 4 stories right here. That I would say there's a mix of 3 and 4 stories going all the way back to Panama Street. But yes, I apologize if I misspoke and said that they were all 4 stories.
That's fine. Can you go back to that last photo?
This one?
Yeah, sorry, just so that I'm fully understanding. Are you talking about infilling this whole space here?
No, so just to be clear, this is our neighbor's house.
Okay.
We are this property. So let me go
Oh,
back.
right. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
I apologize. This is the
No,
danger
that's
of trying to
completely
go too
fine. I
quickly.
just saw the one. I understand now. Sorry about that.
I know the owner is on, and so at the risk of being offensive, I'll say we're the ugly one. You know, that part of the reason why this is going to get spruced up is we're the ugly building that hasn't had any TLC in a very long time. And you know, we're hoping to remedy that and really make this, you know, good for this block and the neighborhood long term.
Great, thank you. All right, Bob Lane, if you want to go ahead.
Yep, thanks. Sean, I'm a committee member. This is not a substantive question, but a due process one. I live the very next block on Pine Street, and I never got any notice of this. And I'm pretty certain that I would be on the Planning Commission and Zoning Board's required notice area. I know that part of your presentation, I didn't see any list of where you sent notice. How did you, or maybe that's what you're showing us now.
Yep. So this, let's see if so we sent it to 130 addresses. Usually you can imagine in many parts of the neighborhood of the city, I'll get, you know, dozens and dozens sent back to me. I did receive a few back here, but most of them were delivered. And what we do is the Planning Commission actually provides a...
Yeah, no, we understand what the Planning Commission does. Do you have the 1900 block of Pine Street on your list? I get all my mail.
Sorry, let me see. Nancy Pine.
Maybe rotate that.
Yeah. I don't know why. Sorry, I don't know why I did that only 1 page at a time.
I assume the 1900 block of Pine would be part of your required notice.
We're still in the 1800 block of Pine.
And it's not that I really care personally that much, but a committee member, we hear this every month. We hear that people don't get notice.
I am presenting every month all over the city, and I certainly understand where you're coming from and why you're asking. So no worries whatsoever.
It's still all 1800 blocks.
Yeah. You know what? Honestly, the 1900 block is probably more than 200 linear feet away from this property.
I thought it was done by block, no longer by feet. But
no,
that's
well, I haven't checked recently to see if they went back, but it used to be done by block. Then it was done by feet. Then they changed the number of feet.
All right, I would figure I'm about, all right, no, I don't want to spend more time on this. You've addressed it.
It's 250 feet.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Wade, what?
250 feet.
I'll
So
bet you
there
I'm
might
about
be-
300 feet.
It
Okay.
might be further. Okay. All right.
you.
Well, thank you also for showing us the addresses. Ben Zuckerman, do you have a question?
And just to be clear, I do believe this was included in the package that went out to you guys. If
Yep.
you want a copy of it, I'm more than happy to.
It's in our folder. It's in our
Okay.
folder. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, can you hold that picture right there?
This one?
Yes.
Okay.
As I understand what you're saying is, you're going to demolish the upper portion of this back area, and you're going to add a 3-story addition on top of the garage. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, there will still be a garage in the rear. And
so that, all right, wait, go back
yeah,
up.
so this on the right is what it will go to.
So that will be higher than the adjoining property, the abutting property. Is that correct? Back to that there.
I don't want to misspeak. I would have to ask, I think Eric Ashley is on. He's the designer for the project. He would know the height of the neighboring property.
Yes, adjoining would be 1 story higher just in the rear portion. Hello.
Yeah, it's clear it'll be higher than the adjoining. And why is it crucial for you to have that rear portion 4 stories rather than 3?
So again, that well, it makes for a better build to be the same height, contiguous height all the way along. There will be roof decks here for the individual use with an elevator that goes all the way up to the top. And that would allow for that would be the one additional 2-bedroom unit on that 4th floor.
So without that floor, you have 1 unit less?
Yes. Eric, did I misstate that?
No, that's correct. They're stacked units for floors 2, 3, and 4. So yes, unit 7 on the front would be retained, but we would lose unit 8.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And then I just see that Veronica had something to add.
Thank you. I'm also a member of the committee, Veronica Aplenc. So thank you for such a clear and also fast presentation. My question was somewhat addressed by the previous question, but I'm wondering, could you please show us what the floor plans are now and what are your proposed floor plans for these 8 units? Because I remember, did I hear you correctly that all of the 8 units will be 2-bedroom, ranging from 730 to 1,130 square feet?
No, I said that, sorry, again, going too quickly. There will be 7 2-bedroom units. The 2-bedroom units will be, 730 square feet up to 1,130 square feet.
Mm-hmm. And then you'll have an 8th unit, and how large will that one be?
So the way that this lays out, even with that extra floor that Mr. Zuckerman just referenced, results in one kind of awkward space above the garage, which leaves a 500 square foot loft studio. So it's not technically a 1-bedroom, but it has a loft bedroom for a total of about 500 square feet.
Great, thank you. Would you be able to quickly show us the floor plans?
You know, I don't believe we have floor plans. Eric, do we have floor plans yet? I haven't seen them. Since we're only at the zoning stage, I don't believe that we have floor plans. If we do, I'd be happy to provide them after the call.
Okay, thank you.
And if vital, I do appreciate CCRA allowing me to be a little pushy to come before the committee today instead of going next month, because we still do have 1 more month where we could come back and kind of provide you any additional information if you have further questions before the zoning hearing in November.
Thank you. Okay, I see Earl Marsh, a member of the community, has been waiting patiently. If you want to go ahead and state your address.
Thank you. Yes, Earl Marsh, 21.
Oh. I'm sorry, I think I just muted you by accident.
Okay.
Sorry about
In the elevation you're showing now, it appears as though not only are you building fully to the northern property line on Panama, but also on your western property line facing the adjacent property 1809 Pine. Is that correct? So this one-story addition that has the door in it, that will now be 4 stories tall.
Yes, so
For the full
that
20
is
foot, excuse me, for the full 20 feet of the property. So the properties in 1809 Pine that look into that setback, which right now has a single story addition, will look across at a 4-story tall wall without windows in it. Is that correct?
yes.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
so essentially what we're doing is looking to build this configuration that you can see just 2 houses down from us is 100% built out along Panama and 100% built out above there. Just to be clear, building out all the way to that wall is, I'm sorry, I lost the photo, is by right. That has nothing to do. So it was simply a choice of the builder of this addition, right? So this addition was built a significantly long time ago that I couldn't find the plans in the city, but it is not original. That being built back with a setback to allow windows in there was a choice made by the original builder. That is not an issue for a variance. That's just something that could be built out regardless.
I guess I'm just raising, maybe not a zoning question, for the consideration of light and air in an adjacent property who gains nothing from this large addition. Just a point.
So it is an excellent point, and I would just point out that the owner, Adam Singer, is on, and he can chime in if I misspeak anything at the moment, but he has spoken to the adjacent property owner, which is, there's a 7-unit apartment building in 1809, and that owner is fully supportive of his plans and has no issues with this going forward.
I expect that the adjacent owner doesn't live in the property.
Well, the adjacent owner owns the building.
Yes.
And rents out 7 units.
Yes.
Hello?
But will not be personally impacted by the loss of light and air that his tenants in the back will be.
And I guess, sorry, just to reiterate your point, Sean, if you go ahead and build onto the property line, then I believe that you won't be able to put any windows in that wall. Is that correct?
Correct. There will be no windows in that sidewall.
Oop. Hey.
Go ahead.
Hi, this is Adam Singer. How are you? I'm the owner of 1807 Pine. I just want to say that I guess it would be the western wall here. It's going to have a cutout. There's going to be a fire escape going down the whole side of that building. So there will be windows on 3 walls in there in a light well shaft coming down where the fire escape will be coming down. And then there's an extra back door. This back door you're seeing next to the garage here, that's actually outside the whole time. It doesn't go inside. That's just a gate going under the second floor into an open air light well. So from a bird's eye view, the building looks like a C. See this open air light well? There'll be a window on the.
There's 3 windows.
Right, there's 3 windows in there.
Full height.
But the last 36.5 feet of the property, of which there are, for most of that, units in 1809 Pine facing into a brick wall about 5 feet away.
Correct.
Okay. There wasn't a clear demonstration of that, or I didn't think it was very clear in the presentation. I just wanted to raise that as a factual concern, whether it's a zoning concern or not.
Okay.
No, and it's well stated. I do want to, I think I took them from the wrong side. Adam, maybe you can confirm, but are there windows currently on that? Do tenants of 1809 have windows on that side because the city records show it as fully built out on that side against us, which would mean that they would not be allowed to put
We are
windows.
looking at as we speak.
Hold on one second.
And not wanting to cut you off, but in a friendly reminder, you are 1 minute away from being at time.
Certainly understood. I just want to make sure we get, Mr. Marsh raises a very excellent point.
Understood.
Just want to try to get him an answer before we get cut off.
Yeah, there's windows.
There are windows.
Okay.
Okay, so that will be probably a matter of the building code. That will have to be addressed.
Correct. That's a building code matter. But also a good question to be raised and considered.
Yeah. And it, perhaps it could be cleared up with the floor plans. So thank you so much. I think I don't see any more raised hands. And it's good point at the very end there. And I think we'll move on to the next case.
And of course, to the board, I mean, you all have my contact information. We've dealt with each other a few times now. It's, if you have any questions or want anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. I know I gave a truncated presentation and I hope I didn't cut anybody's answers or questions short. So I appreciate your time and good luck through the last two.
Thank you very much. I think
Hey, thank you everybody for your time.
Yeah, very, very excellent. We just have two more cases, both of which are visitor accommodations. It is Alex Goldberg is presenting the first of the two, and I actually think these can be very, very quick. So Alex, why don't you take us away?
Sure, thank you, and I promise I will be brief. Okay, so again, my name's Alex Goldberg from the law firm Knockamson PC. Going into full screen mode. The property address is 2129 Pine Street. We're seeking a variance to allow visitor accommodations. I understand CCRA's policy on visitor accommodations, but I'm just hoping to share with you some information about why we think that this is an appropriate use here. And just by way of housekeeping, our ZBA hearing is on November 8th at 9:30 a.m. So first is the notice of refusal, just the use refusal. While there are some interior renovations taking place, there's no modifications to the building that would require a site plan submission and any dimensional refusals. We did circulate a petition. We got 12 signatures of support from nearby neighbors on Pine Street, Delancey Street directly behind, and 22nd Street. Exhibit 3 is a rental license. This property has a very long history of being a 6-unit building, which is what it currently is. The public records on the atlas go back to 1950, showing it being a 6-unit building. There were rental licenses for 6 units in more recent history, according to public record. And when this property was acquired by my client, 2129 Pine LLC, in 2020, when the leases expired for the tenants that were living in the building at the time, they made the decision to do an interior cosmetic renovation and seek a variance to allow for visitor accommodations because the layout of the building was a little bit more friendly towards short-term rentals. As far as long-term rentals, you'll see in the floor plans, they're smaller 1-bedroom units, which we sort of looked at as a nice alternative to hotels for people wanting to stay in the beautiful Fittler Square neighborhood.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Thank you for your comprehensive and full review. Just in a reminder that 5 minutes have been allotted for the presentation for each of the visitor accommodation refusals. And so you have 2 minutes left. So this is your friendly 2-minute note.
Thank you. I will keep it moving. So we have some nearby Airbnb listings showing that the Airbnbs in this neighborhood are not out of character. We're next to a commercial storefront. There are coffee shops and restaurants nearby and other amenities that make this an attractive place for people visiting town, either just to visit Philly or to visit their family to stay, including obviously the great parks nearby. This is an RM1 property, which allows multifamily by right. Here's a Google Maps perspective, some photographs. This is the front of the property. I apologize if I sound like I'm rushing. Pine Street to the right of the property and to the left. Here's the plans and drawings. There are 6 units. The first floor is 2 large studios, and then there are 4 one-bedroom apartments on the, comprised of the second floor and then the third floor. And then one of the units on the third floor has an extra bathroom and living space as well. Here's the meeting notice, proof of mailing to follow, the deed to the property, and the application for appeal. And we're happy to take any questions. I think I got it in time.
I think you were right on time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Fine. Let's see here. I don't think anybody from Ben Zuckerman, if you wanted to go ahead and ask a question.
Yeah, is there any intention to change the number of units from the current 6?
There's not. No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't see anybody else from the committee with any questions. I do see Charles Goodwin. If you want to go ahead and state your address, please.
Yes, my name is Charles Goodwin. My address is 2127 Pine Street. I'm the immediate neighbor to the east. This is the second time this property has come before this committee. It has already been turned down once when we had about 20 letters from neighbors in opposition. Since this is a revisit on the same property, we didn't go through the same effort this time. It's an utterly inappropriate use of the property and out of keeping with the entirely residential neighbor character of this block, except for the long pre-existing commercial corner operation, one of which is now currently vacant. It's, I believe the last time this came before the committee here, 2402 Spruce, which you just turned down again a month ago, was heard. They were heard together before, and the testimony from the neighbors of 2402 Spruce about how the operation as an Airbnb was conducted leave no reason for any neighbor to want this operation by the same owner to continue or to happen here. And I think you will find among the homeowners a solid and uniform opposition.
Understood. And we appreciate you acting as their voice. So thank you very much. Oops. And I will go ahead and call on Earl Marsh next.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Earl Marsh, 2130 Pine, directly across from this property. Echoing Charles, I can speak directly for myself, my wife, Bee Hibbs, our neighbors, Beat and Marsha Hennitz at 2128. I'm not sure what cosmetic renovations are being planned, but the exterior of the building is in terrible condition. The 4th floor windows and roofing have been unfinished for years, and the cosmetic renovations to the inside also included, at some point in the last 2.5 years, the demolition of the interior staircase without a permit. I expect it's been replaced, and I'm sure the permits have been filed now, but the manner in which the owner of this property has conducted themselves does not give me any confidence that they will be able to reasonably operate a short-term rental in a way that would not be very damaging to the neighborhood character and to the property values of those of us around them. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you very much. We hear you loud and clear, neighborhood. And I don't see anybody else. So I'm going to move on to the next case, which has actually been on our agenda several times. I want to see if Kriti is available and present to speak.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, hold on. I do have one more. Sorry, I see
okay.
Floyd and Merrill. 2123 Pine Street. I can't hear you guys.
Muted, yes.
I don't think you're muted. I knew we were talking before.
Lloyd and Merrill, would you please be able to try saying something, because we don't see that you're muted, but we're not hearing you. Can you try to say something? We're not hearing you. There seems to be a problem, but we can resolve this. I don't know if you're fast typers, but could you would you be able to put your message in the chat to everyone?
Okay.
Be able to do that now.
Good idea, Veronica.
And I'll be glad to read it out. So we just ask if you could please type your message in the chat, and we see your address by your name at 2123 Pine.
Great. And then meanwhile, just Lynn Schwartz, would you like to add something?
I would, yes, thank you. Just as Chuck and Earl and indicated, I live at 2118 Pine Street. It is a family residential neighborhood for the most part. It's very quiet. It's not commercial at all, except for the corner businesses, which are very quiet and respectful of the character of the neighborhood. I oppose this proposed use. The property owner has not maintained the property, as Earl pointed out, and I really support refusing any permission to go forward with their plans as presented. And I thank you for the opportunity to participate.
You're welcome. Well said. And I think Lloyd and Merrill, are you in support of this, or?
Are you
Oh, okay. So then it sounds like, oh, here we go. We echo neighbors, the picture shown best. Okay.
So just to read out for everyone,
agreeing with, sorry, go ahead, Veronica.
We echo neighbors' comments. The picture shown is best. It has evidently have trash in front. The attorney gave a different reason, nor looked and not quite fully understand, but the attorney has given a different reason. But previously they said they could not rent for 1-year leases. And I also see that one more thing, so thank you for that. I see one more person would like to comment, Michelle Schweitzer.
Yeah, we live at 2121 Pine Street, and we agree with Lloyd and Merrill and Charles. It's a neighborhood. I think that how this owner has kept the place has kind of been detrimental to the neighborhood. We also have kids on the neighborhood, so I think the risk of having an Airbnb provides a different type of security risk that we haven't had. So I refute this and echo what our neighbors have said.
Thank you. And then one more, Sandra, I think you want to state your name. Great.
Hi, I'm Sandra Suarez. I live in 2116 Pine with my husband and children. Excuse me, and I also want to echo what has been said here. I am adamantly opposed to an Airbnb in our neighborhood. I think out of respect to what the neighbors want, this should be a no-brainer. In addition to all of the concerns that we have about having an Airbnb in what it's a residential neighborhood. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for stating your opinion here. And I think we will move on. I think it's pretty loud and clear, the neighbor's position on this. And lastly, we have the last case for tonight is 1953 Locust Street. We're going to move on to that. We have Kriti Segal. Kriti,
hi everyone.
Present?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
Yep. All right, go ahead and begin.
Okay. Hi everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to state my case. I own 1950 Locust Street, Unit 1 and 3F. I've owned them for over 16 years. I've been a resident of the neighborhood for that time. I've owned a local business in the area as well. And I'm applying for a short-term visitor accommodation license, not necessarily for Airbnb, but just having the opportunity, the option to do long-term and short-term. And I just wanted sort of just clarify what the neighborhood is actually comprised of right now. I mean, right behind my building is a Rittenhouse Hotel, which obviously has short-term daily visitors and guests. Up right across the street from me is the 7-Eleven, the Dorchester, aka Corman, again, mixed use, long-term, short-term rentals. They also have where you can stay for Airbnbs, like if you have family in the building, you can rent a portion of that. Next door to me is a short-term rental owned by Alan Dom. On the other side of me is Robin Gay, who has a bunch of properties in the area and has long-term and short-term, as well as AMC owns 2 doors down from me. There's also Ultimo and Vibrant. It's a lot of commercial activity right on my block. And so I just wanted, you know, the ability to be able to use my property, whether I want as long-term or short-term rental. I don't believe that I'm adding any sort of added nuisance or disadvantage to what already exists in this, you know, where my location is. I mean, you have a ton of people coming in and out of the city, whether it's grad students or people going in for fellowships or people coming in to work at banks or wherever for short-term stays. For me, the focus of short-term rentals focused on people who are here for a reason, whether it's doing a year-long fellowship or a 6-month internship at Penn, or here for, you know, work on a project with, you know, PwC or KPMG or whoever it may be. So, and very much the neighborhoods, you know, the Carlisle is half a block down. There's a bunch of high rises, the Laurel, which is this behemoth building that just got approved a half a block down. So the area is already saturated with this stuff, and
So very sorry to interrupt, but just in a friendly reminder, for the visitor accommodations, there's been a 5-minute allotment for the presentation.
Oh, okay,
This
sure.
is your friendly 2-minute notice.
No worries. I mean, so I think that's, you know, where it is. I mean, that's kind of where I am. So I don't believe that my request is sort of out there. The neighborhood already exists with all of these long and short term and mixed use and non-mixed use situations going on. I'm not adding any more nuisance for anything. My building currently is 4 units, all of which are rented out by investors, as long as everything that I'm surrounded with. And again, the Dorchester, AKA Alan Dom, the Rittenhouse Hotel, mixed use with Vibrant and Ultimo, half a block from the park, a lot of noise and stuff going in from the farmer's market every day or the art fair. I'm not adding anything different than what already exists in my neighborhood. So I would appreciate your consideration for my request. And I have again been a long-term tenant.
Thank you. I'm going to start with the committee members. I have Ben Zuckerman.
Yes, where I'm sitting, I can look out my window down at your property. What is it currently used for?
Oh, which it's I mean, so I live in one of the units, and the other 3 are all rentals.
They're long-term or short-term?
So they've been mixed, like the people have rented them for 6 months, people rent them for a year, but for the 16 years I've lived in the building, I'm the only owner occupied unit that has ever been there.
And there are 2 units that you're seeking this visitor accommodation for, is that correct?
Yes.
Out of the other 3?
So there's 4 units total, and I own 2 of them, and I've owned them for over 16 years. The other 2 are also invested. Whoever owns those 2, they're all rented out to renters. And some of them have been 6 months, some of them in a year, some of them have been 3 months.
No, I just, there's 4 units in the building. This application is for 2 units to have visitor accommodation. Are those 2 in addition to the one in which you live?
No. It's one is the one that I will no longer live in full-time.
Oh, so you will no longer be a resident of that building, is that correct?
Not full-time, no.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Great. And then I see Veronica had a question, and then Charles. Go ahead, Veronica.
Oh, thank you. So thank you for your presentation. My question was, what is your hardship?
My hardship? Well, so I mean, I run a small business in Philadelphia for 13 years. When COVID hit, I'm in the food space. Lots of changes happened for me. And so I can no longer afford to just, you know, I now work remote. I'm on the road a lot in a new position. So I'm not, you know, not in Philly full time to do that. And so it's not necessarily a hardship. It's just like a change of, you know, a change of my life situation. And everything that I've been surrounded with over the 16 years I live in that building, and then the area has always been transient people coming in and out, you know, including my building, which I was a tenant of for 16 years. So I think that my request is it's very well aligned with what my particular block or the surrounding blocks around me are currently involved in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Charles.
Just wanted to clarify and make the committee aware. I am the owner of 1951 Locust Street. I've been a longtime property owner. It's a 7-unit property, and all 7 units I have are 12-month term rentals.
Thank you. Ben?
Did we receive proof of mailings on the notifications?
Yes, it's in the folder, I believe.
Okay, 'cause I have 2 of the properties on there and I didn't receive a notice at either. Secondly, the owner's unit, is it still their primary residence? They don't need to seek this change if it's listed as their primary residence under the laws of the city of Philadelphia. On non-owner occupied unit, they would need to have this approval.
To answer your questions, I mailed them all out. I got like 50 or 60 of them returned to me after paying $5 an envelope. So that was kind of disheartening. So I did mail them all. And I do have many of them that are returned that if you want to see, I don't have them right now in front of me, but I can send them to Veronica or to Rebecca. But I did mail them all, spent a couple $1,000s on that. And then, I'm sorry, can you clarify what you said? So if it's owner occupied, I don't have to apply for?
If it's your primary residence, you're allowed to do short-term rentals for, I believe it's 180 days. Someone else might be able to clarify that without approval.
Okay.
And I know from the conversation, I lost the track. You said you're doing a lot of travel. I didn't know if that means that you're no longer residing in Philadelphia at all. A follow-up question is, who would be managing the short-term rentals?
So I do spend half of my weeks, like it depends on the week and where I'm going, but Philadelphia is still my home base. So I will still be there half of the week. I just don't know if it'll be that 180 days, right? Based on sort of work travel and traveling or seeing family, whatever it may be. So I didn't want to like get in trouble with that aspect. Do you know what I'm saying? But I do spend half of my weeks in Philly and it's all based on like work. So like I'm in Philly all week this week, but the next week I'm gone for 4 days. And it's usually pre-planned. So, but
So you're planning on self-managing these if you do get approval on short-term rent?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen?
I think Ben probably asked the same thing. My concern is if you're not going to be there, who's going to be, if you're going to be traveling so much, who's going to be managing these, being on site, being close enough to really manage these properties?
Yeah, absolutely. So great question. So, if I'm spending, on average 3 to 4 nights out of 7 nights a week there, that's, close to 50% of the time, if not more. I'm still tied to going there. That's not changing. I do have got like a right hand of someone that's worked with me for 13, 14 years, who prior to this law change has helped me before. And 2, we have someone already who manages the building and the repairs and the maintenance, who is also like on call to do that at any time. And it's not that I'm far away. I'm a car ride away. Usually I'm in New York or DC. I'm within 2 hours away. It's not that I'm like, in a different country or the other side of the country,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we have Wade, and then we have one community member who's been waiting.
Sure.
Thanks. So 2 things. One is I want to follow up on a question that Veronica, the co-chair, asked, and that is about hardship. And the follow-up is what I understand that there are some economic reasons why you're asking for a variance in this case. Why can you not rent out all of the units in this building as regular apartments subject to a year lease?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think, obviously, number one, my financial situation is a lot different, right? And I'm not in Philly all the time. Like I said before, number 2, I think with the way Philadelphia is and a lot of the tenants that I'm looking for like a lot of people that are doing grad school or here for fellowship, like, those type of tenants. I think that, the bottom line on that is economics wise, Airbnb is more fruitful in that regard, right? For a lot of people. So it's just an option I want to keep open. I'm not saying that I'm going to definitely use that option, but I like I would like the option to short-term rent. It also, for how I live my life and being on the road, it gives me the optionality to be able to pick and choose, because I pre-plan, I can stay in my own unit also. Whereas with a long-term tenant, I can't stay in my unit at all, which will then require me to spend more money, you know, living somewhere else, right? So, or renting or getting a hotel or whatever it may be.
And then the second question is, and I think there was a little bit of confusion, at least on my part. For am I correct that the unit that you currently use in that building, you've never put that on Airbnb or whatever it might be, and you have no intention of doing so, that the units that are the subject of this variance request are non-owner occupied units? Is that correct?
So, I mean, I hope I'm getting this right. So, one unit has always, because I have 2 units, so one unit's always been a long-term renter. Like I've had the same tenant, I had the same tenant for 8 years, and then COVID hit, right? And then with my unit, it's always been owner occupied by me for the last 16 years. And I'm just saying, I like the optionality to have this, you know, option to do short-term visitor accommodation. And because my life and my financial situation is different, and I'm on the road a lot more, I still want to be able to like sleep in my home when I'm in Philly, and when I'm not, I'd like to have the option to rent it to someone who's looking for a short-term stay.
Okay. Well, that's the issue that Ben Weinrob brought up, and that if it's your own unit, you may not need a variance for that. You may be able to go and get what's called an over-the-counter license, and you should definitely look into that, regardless of whatever happens through this process.
Thank you very much. I was just worried, I think, about the 180-day thing, but it doesn't seem like that's an issue.
It is.
It actually has to be rented through Airbnb for the 180 days. So if you're not here 180 days or 200 days, the likelihood of you being occupied 180 days plus, it doesn't trigger until you hit that number.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I must have misunderstood that, you know, and I didn't want to do the wrong thing or get in trouble or get fined, you know, so.
Thank you. All right, Pat, if you want to go ahead and ask a question and state your address, please. You're muted.
Am I okay now?
Yep,
excellent.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm Patricia Mattern. My address is 226 West Rittenhouse Square, which is the Dorchester. However, I'm in my unit. I'm directly across the street from this. I'm literally across the street on Locust Street, looking down at this property. So first of all, I want to thank Wade Albert, who cleared up a little question I had from the last meeting. And that is that I believe this applicant has complied, at least with regard to me, with the notice requirements. However, because my address in the Dorchester is at 226 West Rittenhouse Square, that's more than 250 feet from this property. So therefore, I don't know that this applicant was required to give notice to the Dorchester. I do want to, so I think she's been compliant, and I know about this, and this is a benefit of CCR membership, because this is how I came to know about this evening. I must say that the Dorchester does not permit Airbnb or short-term rentals. So I just want to clarify that. I noticed that from looking down on this, that this property does have a roof deck. I assume these rentals would have access to that. And I also think, and the applicant can correct me if I'm wrong, that in front of this property, it's no parking or stopping. So it's going to add still more congestion to this area. I have to say, from my point of view, if this particular Airbnb or whatever is not the end of the world one way or the other. But my concern was for the impact which Airbnbs can have on the neighborhood overall. And I know from being on the committee in the past that once you grant something, then the next person comes back and says, well, you gave it to them, why can't I have it? I'm getting the sense, but I haven't been on the committee for a few years now, that this committee as well has already developed a policy with regard to these Airbnbs and has taken into account those considerations, because you're obviously very much on top of it. So that was basically my concern about Airbnbs. I think you're all already on top of it. So I don't have any other comments to make.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think that's a perfect ending for tonight's meeting. Thank you all for being very thorough in your presentations, and we're going to go ahead and meet in our closed committee session now. So I'm going to ask anybody who's not in the committee to go ahead and leave the meeting.
I will stop the recording.
Thank you.
Anna, I'm going to go ahead and move you into the waiting room because now we're moving to closed session. And I will stop the recording.